A discussion during time of war. A discussion on stability and future in the Middle East and beyond. Today, I have the distinct pleasure and honor to welcome the Ambassador of Israel in Cyprus, Mr. Oren Anolik. My name is Dr. Marios Efthymiopoulos. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Strategy International. And this is Prime Analysis. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for coming at another web series of Strategy International, which takes place in a period of war.
Good morning, Marios. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to have those discussions with you.
Thank you very much. And I know that this is a very interesting moment of our interview and our discussion, if you want, here today, because just a few hours ago, Donald Trump announced a proposal for ceasefire between Iran and Israel and Iran. And it seems, at least on Twitter, that sides have accepted this. So we are at a very pivotal time where things are a bit in flux. So can I start a bit on a short past history? Last Friday morning, there is the report of the IAEA that comes out and states that Iran, after 20 years, does not comply with the rules and regulations and decisions of the IAEA. Where do we stand on this subject?
Can I just say, before I answer directly your question, that just before entering here, the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, publicly announced that Israel accepts the ceasefire proposed by President Trump. So hopefully, as we are taping this, that we are in a situation now that the ceasefire would be kept and honored, which actually opens up a very interesting discussion for us about where do things will develop from here, and what actually happened, what does this mean for Israel, for Iran, and for the region. And I'm looking forward to have this discussion. Per your question, if I may just say, it was not just an IAEA report, which was a very important report. There was a decision made by the Board of Governors of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, in which the IAEA found Iran in non-compliance to its obligations according to the NPT, which is a very diplomatic way of saying we are more than just suspicious that what Iran was actually doing, not what it was saying, was trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Now, diplomats don't speak this way, but this is the actual meaning. To reach this point of saying this, it means that the IAEA cannot say, we have assurances, we have guarantees that we know that this is not happening. So they cannot say, we know it's happening, but the real translation of this is something very bad is happening, and what is really happening is that Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapon. Moreover, because this is not news, we know for many years that the Iranians have been developing a military nuclear plan that once exposed, they were trying to disguise this as if this is civilian, which it was not. One of my favorite quotes is of an American diplomat, Bob Einhorn. He was once asked about the nuclear reactor in Iraq. Could this really be used for research purposes, as the Iranians are saying? And his response was, also a hunting knife with a blade of 20 inches can be used to spread jam on your toast. And this is the actual answer, because the way that the Iranians were trying to disguise their program didn't make any sense. And we know because we also have the intelligence, we also have the information, we have the archives of the nuclear program. We know what they were trying to do, and we know how they were trying to disguise this. What was new and what led us to what, as you said, happened on June 13th? We have come to know that they have been making some real progress on one of the elements that are required for a nuclear weapon. There are 3 elements required. Fissile material, which is the radioactive substance that you need to create the nuclear chain reaction, which is either enriched uranium or plutonium. one.
Right.
Second one is an explosive device. And the third one is something that will take this explosive device with the fissile material to the target, which is a missile. They have missiles. They made a lot of progress on enrichment. I can say more about this. And we found out that they were making progress on the weaponization itself. And unlike the nuclear or the fissile material, that you can have some sort of a warning that you know that they are accumulating it, when it comes to weaponization, this can be done quietly in some shed
And fast.
and quite fast. So we found ourselves in a situation that we know
How to take a decision.
that we have a window of opportunity here, and we can also discuss about this window of opportunity, that if we do not take action now, we might not ever have the option again to try to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. And then we have decided that we are going to do something, take action to make sure that they will not have the capability of destroying Israel.
What is very interesting to me was that the report of the IAEA stipulates a background of years of research. It is like they're leading themselves into a conclusion of about 20 years that has led to ultimately nothing. Basically nothing, stating the positive value added that the IAEA would come out eventually in time with some reports stating that, in fact, Iran plays along with the rules and regulations. And in fact, it led to the conclusion that does not. And I'm sticking to the element of time. So tell me a few more things, if that's possible, for the actual power-led game that happened, and maybe the choices. What were these values that you mentioned? What were these values that gave that window of opportunity, now or never?
Okay. I will, and I need to add one more thing about the threat that led us to make this decision, and then we can discuss it within this window of opportunity. So we said we saw some real progress on weaponization of a nuclear device, and we know it also from the IAEA, they have been accumulating more and more fissile material, enriched uranium, enriched to a level of 60%. They already had 450 kilograms of this material, which you need very little more work to turn it into weapons-grade uranium, and this is enough for about 9 to 10 nuclear devices. There is no real civilian usage for this, especially not in Iran. So it is clear that they are doing this to
it's not for peaceful purposes.
To create for themselves the possibility of a nuclear weapon. But this is not only this. The nuclear program, even though it's the heart of the matter, is one element. The other element is the Iranian ballistic missile program. And here I also need to say something. They already have, or had before the war started, a stockpile of more than 2,000 long-range ballistic missiles that can reach deep into the heart of Europe. I need to say this. There is no other non-nuclear state in the world that has such kind of an arsenal. Why do the Iranians need such an arsenal? It's a question. Why do they need to reach so far from Iran? Who exactly are they going to threaten with this? For us, this is even more crucial, because we know that they had a plan to take the manufacturing of ballistic missiles to the next level. They had a plan of trying to reach an arsenal of about 10,000 ballistic missiles within 3 years. So we also look at this.
And apparently these 2,000 were brand new manufactured, in the sense that they were in process. It was like they were getting ready for such action.
Yes, they were building their stockpile and they were manufacturing those missiles.
Because these are latest years. It's not like they had it and they just updated.
No. This is a very much not only an ongoing but accelerating process or process that they were having, because they wanted to increase the level of deterrence and also possible usage. For us, as a very small country, people forget how small Israel is. As a very small country, having a threat of that amount of missile is almost as existential. Almost as existential as the nuclear threat. So what we saw is a double existential threat to the state of Israel. the nuclear and the missile. And let us not forget that to add to this, Iran also had this ring of fire around us in which they had their proxies ready to strike on Israel.
They've been doing it.
Which they were doing to a certain extent, but their plan was to have something even more severe. So this is the threat.
Houthi example.
Houthis are actually, Hezbollah is more of a threat. Houthis is more of a nuisance. Hezbollah is a real threat because of the number of missiles that they had and the proximity to Israel and their capabilities. So we are seeing this threat. But then some things have happened in the last 18 months. Hamas is
obliterated.
Not totally eliminated, but suffered serious blows. Hezbollah suffered a huge blow end of 2024. So those proxies close to Israel are less of a factor. Because of the exchange of fire with Iran, both on April and October 2024, we were able to already eliminate a substantial part of the Iranian air defenses systems.
That was done quite successfully too.
Very successful. And we saw that this is a combination of, and this is this window of opportunity, a combination of the level of threat, the imminence of the threat. This is an imminent threat. This is not something to say, okay, we have time, we have more, let's give diplomacy some more time. We saw the negotiation the Iranians were having with the West, which was a game. They were deceiving the world. And the capabilities. Hezbollah is neutralized, Hamas is mostly neutralized, air defenses are down, Iran is at a weak point. So a combination of the capabilities and the timing made this the right time to take action to make sure that we can continue to survive in this region. Which brings me to where we are today, because we discussed about what happened up to June 13th. We are taping this is June 24th today, and this morning, as we said before, the ceasefire was announced, and you look at the situation, and many people will say many things, but the bottom line is, there's no doubt that Iran was heavily beaten. There are some casualties on our side, unfortunately. Iran fired around 500 missiles and about 1,000 drones into Israel. The vast majority of them were intercepted, but those who actually hit, we have, as of today, we have 28 people that were killed. But Iran was hit severely.
Its infrastructure, its military compounds,
military echelon as well. The nuclear program, the ballistic missiles program. Now that the dust settles and you look at the new situation that is here, there are risks and threats. This will always be in the region, but there are opportunities here, lots of them.
I kept in silence on purpose because I wanted to hear you out on a strategic level. And I really enjoyed what you just said, because it is not common that we speak about the strategic opportunity that lays ahead in terms of an option. You clearly pointed out that they were naked, and that was the opportunity. And while you were talking, I was thinking that how many years our scientists, our academics, mostly coming from Israel, were actually writing about the mere fact that Iran may continue to fund their proxies. Their ultimate goal is to attack Israel. These are the proofs. After many years of different writings and different people, and people have been accused for stating that the source of that evil is Iran. And I guess that the source of evil that is Iran made it adamantly clear when they attacked last night, 23rd at night, Qatar, an otherwise country that used to be, at least they were accused to be very close with Iran, if you remember, with the GCC. And then again, they attacked an American base, but on sovereign soil of Qatar. And the official statement of the Qatar Foreign Ministry said that they also have the right to response. And it seems that the GCC also took a decision that they are holding back with Qataris. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's going to happen or not. What matters is, and I'm thinking that egoism, the political egoism, if you want, of the region that it can come source, that if they do not reply to such an attack, it will remain in some sort of history that Iran has the right to attack anybody they feel at any level, even if it is on U.S. bases, because there were Turkish bases also, but they didn't attack those. They attacked the American base. So are we sure that this peace will actually settle down, or is it an extensive military level diplomacy where we're actually saying either you surrender or we continue?
Miles, there's a lot to unpack in what you just said. A lot. I don't even know where I want to start with this. And I would like us to go later on, if it's okay with you, to the issue of opportunities and
Of course,
threats,
we'll come back to this.
which I think is a major one. I think it's important to try to keep clarity on this issue, because otherwise you can easily muddy the water. There will be many people making statements right now. We need to try to keep some kind of clarity, and this is what's important, because the Iranians are going to make statements about their huge victory.
Success and everything.
So let's
they already announced it.
Let's take it with a pinch of salt, those statements, and let's look at realities. And the reality is that the side that was clearly suffered a serious blow here is Iran.
Clear.
None of its proxies came to its help. None of them. Not Hezbollah, not the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, even the Houthis. It's like ridiculous. Not the pro-Iranian militias in Iraq. None of its proxies that they're working so hard to prepare them for a day like this did anything. They were completely surprised when they were attacked. All of the top echelon, the military top echelon, was wiped out. The nuclear program was set back, I don't know exactly for how long, but was set back, and they suffered real damages. The ballistic missile program suffered huge blows. This is the reality. With all the sorrow for the houses that were hit in Israel and people were killed, there is no comparison here. The Iran was the one that was...
military targets versus civilian.
Yeah, but also in the sense, of course, you are right, but it's also in the sense of the strategic meaning of what has happened. So this is the where we are, and it brings me back to what I said before. What does this mean now for the region? Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of problems and issues and challenges and risks and threats.
There is an opportunity coming up.
The Iranian regime is still there. I don't know. I have to be, again, very careful. I don't know what are they thinking right now. I am somewhat skeptic that the way, the train of thoughts that go through the Supreme Leader's head right now is, I learned my lesson. Maybe I made a mistake for the last 40 years in the strategy that I was forming. Maybe all the things that I was doing until now were the wrong thing, because look, I was brought back years. I was brought years back now. I'm not certain this is how they are thinking. I think that they need to lick their wounds, but I don't think that their ideology has changed. I don't believe that their desire has changed. I don't believe that their wishes have changed. They need to look at what they are doing, and this is another issue, but they are still there. This regime is still there. His ideology is still exporting the revolution. So it's not time to go dancing in the streets, because there are risks and threats. But there are opportunities here. I think that it would be interesting to look at the mindset in the Sunni Arab world right now, for example.
Yes.
I think that even though many of them are not supporters of Israel, to say the least,
they understand that they have to.
I think there is a level of satisfaction with the fact that Iran was hit so hard. I think that they understand better now the might of Israel and how powerful Israel is in this region. And this can open up opportunities for cooperation, opportunities for collaboration, opportunities. You love to use the word peace. I'm much more hesitant about the word peace, but ways of seeing what are the things that we have in common that we can promote together.
I am into peace when there are interlocutors for peace. On the other side, I do not think personally that these are interlocutors for peace. These are interlocutors for instability. And they showed it with Houthis, with the support of the Houthis in the Yemen war, if you remember correct, in 2015 onwards, with the Islamic alliance in the region of Yemen. They're showing it with the Strait of Hormuz, trying to do
You're
different
talking about
stuff.
the Iranian leadership.
I'm talking about the
Yes,
Iranian leadership.
We are complete agreement.
They're
on
not
this.
interlocutor for peace. So I'm a bit skeptical on peace with them. I am also a proponent of peace when it comes down to a discussion like the Abrahamic Accord, when the agreement of the Abrahamic Accord, because unlike what people may think, the Abrahamic Accord is cultural in nature. It is political in nature. It is business to business in nature. It is building brick by brick the relationship between these Arab states and Israel, because we really need some sort of peace. Therefore, we need some interlocutors to speak about peace. But I also believe that this is the opportunity, I guess, at least in the last history years, that if this regime does not fall apart, it either has to change everything 180, everything their policies, at least for their own people, for the sake of their own people, and maybe join the Western civilizations, or face the consequences. For me, this is very clear. As a person who's a citizen, who's a resident in Cyprus, who sees in the Middle East what is happening, I'm not exactly concerned in the level of war. I am concerned about somebody who's totally unstable. And they have proven themselves that the accusation towards them was right. That is what frightens me. And when they have ballistic missiles, and when there are threats through Hezbollah, if you remember, Nasrallah threatening even the Republic of Cyprus, if you remember, for the Republic of Cyprus convincing the European Union to help people on stabilization and illegal migration and so on and so forth, this shows that they have no ethics. They have no morals. They have no second thoughts about what they're saying. So yes, we need a power to stabilize the Middle East. Yes, we do need an interlocutor for the stability of the region in this new security architecture. Yes, I do believe that Israel can do it. But I also believe that other countries such as Greece, Cyprus, and also the Arab states should get together on a table and discuss the next day of opportunity.
That's a very good segue for me to speak a bit about those opportunities. Again, you speak about peace, but let me try to to look at it from a wider angle.
Please.
I think that roughly speaking, and again, this is generalization, you can speak about 4 different major elements in the Middle East. I'm going to go beyond, but in the Middle East. You have the Shiite axis, which was led by Iran and included parts of Iraq and the Assad regime in Syria and Hezbollah and the Houthis. You have the moderate Sunni countries. You have the fundamentalist Sunni forces,
right,
and you have Israel, which is not a Muslim. I think that in this balance of power that we have, what we see now is a decrease in the power of the Shiite axis. We see, of course, Israel comes out with the upper hand. We see an opportunity for the moderate Sunni countries, and we can see that the more fundamentalist Sunni elements, the one that talking about political Islam, which we can speak about, we can mention also Turkey in this regard, by the way, also see an opportunity here. So if you look at it from the kind of this kind of a big game, it's an opportunity for Israel and the moderate Sunni countries to join hands together and creating something, some kind of a core
Abrahamic
here.
Accord too.
We can call it Abraham Accord too, but
my proposal.
Yes, I'm
because there is already a background.
I'm thinking about a moderate, forward-looking core in the Middle East that would other elements are not going to disappear. Okay, but if you can create a center of gravity which is taking the region into stability, into cooperation, into economic cooperation, this is the trajectory, and the others are playing as they try to interfere. Whereas up until now, the Shiite axis was very strong, and it was created
especially
some kind
in
of
Iraq.
Iran, Iraq, Syria, Hezbollah. All of this was now there's a shift of balance with a huge opportunity risks are also there. Threats are also there. Nothing is given.
Nothing's going to change
guaranteed.
overnight. Yeah, obviously.
But there is an interesting strategic opportunity to change. And then, as you said yourself, when you look at the close neighbors, Cyprus, Greece, it makes so much sense for those countries to be helpful and to facilitate this kind of a trajectory, which is good also for them, good also for Europe, business-wise, strategically wise, energy-wise, so many things.
Yes. Okay. Electricity, gas, oil.
So
R&D.
I believe that the majority of people in Cyprus understand this. I believe that, of course...
No, they want stability.
Of course, the government knows it. But I must say, though, there are elements here in Cyprus that see things differently, which is, I find it...
well, in a democracy, they have the right to do that, but they also have to understand the wider picture, and that is at times lacking what is happening. You cannot say, I want neutrality. I don't care. No, you should care. It's like 20 minutes flight out of you. So
your words, not mine.
No, my words.
Yes.
My words. No, why I'm very adamant, because we need to act. And already the Cyprus Republic is acting, at least in the humanitarian relief, the support to those flights, and et cetera, et cetera. You know it better than me. But that's not enough. In the following days, in the following months, I say politically, academically, scientifically, as you wish to say, that we need to do more. We need to do more because we also have a strategic agreement with Israel. And I hate to not hear that we need to do something about it now. Intelligence-wise, we've done what we could. Humanitarian relief, support, logistics, yes. I'm talking about front row support. I'm talking about actions. For example, it might sound a bit weird talking to an ambassador at this point, but I would also give air support. I would give back-end air support. I would give naval support in case of. The Americans did it. The British did it in support, if you remember, with the first attacks of Iran into Israel. Similarly, I would do it. You know why? Because it's a strategic relationship. Because that's how you bond each other. Because no stability, no security, no development. That's how I see it. Now, with regards to Turkey, I wanted to avoid Turkey on purpose. Although I do believe that Erdogan has come strong also with some statements. And I saw it. I was also asked in an interview, and I said, well, he wanted an opportunity to say that he wants to build ballistic missiles. Now he uses this opportunity. But I think they're lost in some ways. And they're lost in some ways because yesterday there was something that happened on the Christians, and that was in Syria, a bombed church of Christians. And you know better than me how difficult the situation, or how complex the situation is, when you put also the Christians involved into this area, into these stories. So I wanted to keep them away in this case, but I'll just say this and I'll stop. What I've been saying on TV, and I mean it, is that Turkey has shown how little they are, how small they are at this level, considering that they have used every single bit of political communication and nothing else. Nothing else. They are not there as interlocutors for peace. The Istanbul meetings just happened to happen. And they do not mean peace. Don't forget, they have an alliance with Iran. They have alliance, Russia, Iran, Turkey. So now they have to make a choice. Are you a Western power? Are you a power for peace, stability? What are you? And that they have to answer themselves.
I'm not going to go there. I don't want to discuss this issue.
That was not the
only thing I would say is that the weakening of Iran also creates for Turkey a vacuum that they would be very interested in filling in the region, which we need to wait and see how this is developing. Or what does this mean? This is as far as I can go on this issue. I agree.
Let's go now to another subject. I want to talk about what I've seen the last weeks. I've seen so many Israeli citizens on their way to Israel with those flights landing. Some of them are my friends. I've told you my own personal story, which it reminded me how deep-rooted the relationship between my family and Israelis is, considering that we also come from Thessaloniki. So my grandmother held during World War II, protected two families in the rescue against Nazis. And I didn't do it obviously at this extent, but it felt so good to support these people trying to go home in a difficult situation. During this time, I've met with some, and all of them wanted to go back to Israel to be as helpful as possibly could. And I'm telling you this, and I'm getting the chills right now because we are lacking this practical prideness to be proud about our state and a will to go back. So I want to ask you, because you have much more daily communication with also your family and so on, how did people react on the attacks of Iran? Yes, they were not military targets; they were civilian targets. But what the pictures are showing me, they're showing that the community is bonded together. Can you please describe to me, or can you describe to the audience, how are Israelis reacting to this?
Yes. I think that first of all, there was consensus in Israel on the issue of Iran. I think that Israelis, regardless of their opinions on political issues, all viewed Iran as an existential threat, all understood the need to deal with this threat, and therefore when you have this kind of a consensus within society, it's people do come together because they believe in the cause. That's where we start. Now, don't get me wrong. Israelis fight among themselves on many issues. It's not a secret. We had a lot of protest and demonstration in Israel about different issues, internal and security-wise. But on the Iranian issue, there was a consensus, and people understood that they need to show resilience. They need to be able to withstand this uneasy situation, and I can give some examples because it's worth it, because the outcome eventually would be that we would take out a serious existential threat to our lives as individuals and as a nation in Israel. And the fact that you see so many Israelis going back to Israel, for us it's natural. You saw the same thing happening after October 7th. People want to go back to our homeland, to be with their families, to take part, to help in what they can help. Same thing was happening right now. People want to go back, even though it was dangerous in Israel. The Iranian missiles are serious missiles. Wherever, in the times that, not many, fortunately, but in the time that they did hit targets in Israel, centers of civilian population, they caused damage and cost lives. But still people want to go back, to be with their families, to be part of this, to contribute to the effort, because, again, for us, this is almost the raison d'etre of our existence. We will not be able to survive otherwise in this region. Once the war is over, believe me, we'll go back also to fighting among ourselves.
It's a democracy.
Yes.
It's a democracy. I would like to ask you something. In the aftermath of the Iranian regime, I still insist, and I will say publicly, that this regime has an end date. This is my statement. This is my opinion. But assuming that there is some sort of peace, either ways, with a new regime.
Peace with Iran.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace, end of hostilities, and some sort of stability, no attacks, right? Does this give an opportunity? We're turning back to the Southeast Med for a new security architecture of the region in order to solve pending problems, considering the ongoing war against the terrorists Hamas, and considering the terrorists like Hezbollah, and eventually the Houthis. But the Houthis is longer as a process, but they're definitely demoralized in this case. They cannot get weapons. There are no more weapons in Iran to ship. The question is, what do you do with them?
I need to say that I do not fully agree with this analysis, and I'll try to explain why. There is no peace with the Iranian regime because the Iranian regime is not built on the idea of peace and coexistence with others. It is built on the idea of the supremacy of the Shiite Islam. This is what it is built on. This is not a bug.
I agree on
it's
this.
It's a feature. It's a characteristic of this regime. They are not interested. It's not part of what they want to achieve.
What about
One second. So as long as this regime is still in power, it's not there. There's no way of new architecture in the region that involves the current Iranian regime. It doesn't exist.
No, I never said about Iran. I said about how do you deal with the proxies, basically. Considering that Iran is no more.
But it's not no more. This is what I'm trying to say. They are not going to go back and say now, oh, we were so wrong. We need to stop what we did before. This is not what's going to happen.
Right.
It's clear that what they're going to do is they're going to try to renew some of their old policies and strategies. Maybe they will do some adjustment and changes, but they are going to go and try and rebuild their proxies. They're going to go and try to rebuild the missile program, and hopefully not, but they might also want to go and rebuild the nuclear power. The idea is, as long as this regime is in power, to keep it in check, to make sure that this doesn't happen, and use whatever is needed. We use whatever is needed to make sure that this does not repeat itself. We learned the lesson. We know what happens if we just rely on diplomacy and negotiation.
Right. It won't work.
Eventually, you get to a point that you don't have any other option. So we don't want to reach this point again. We want to be able to make sure that it doesn't grow again. This is as long as this regime stays in power. This is not a popular regime with its own people.
Of course, 85%
But it's in the hands of the Iranian people. The Iranian people need to decide who is going to rule them. A different regime in Iran opens up a lot of opportunities. This regime does not open up opportunities, but the fact that it was hit so badly, this by itself does create opportunities around Iran, not with Iran.
My question follows. I want you to tell me that new security architecture with another regime. Now, I'm not saying putting Iran on the table of Southeast Europe. I'm saying with Iran overlooking its own problems, and as you said, licking its wounds. So with a new establishment of a new regime, more westernized, if I can call it like this, or more internationalized, if I can even call it like this, will have to deal with its internal issues. So restructuring, rebuilding, maybe with the international sides. In the meantime, the Middle East will have an opportunity. That opportunity will be to end hostilities and complete the operation against these terrorist groups and bring some sort of stability. Is this doable? Yes, no, maybe.
Okay. So
which conditions?
we're talking about two different scenarios, if I understand correctly. One is this regime stays, it will try to rebuild itself, but it is weakened now. This creates an opportunity for others. And the other one is once we have a new regime.
Right.
Look, a new regime again. It's
not a new chapter.
It's not an Israeli objective. It's up to the Iranian people. It's up to them. But if we make this leap into a future, I don't know how it's going to happen. But let's say we're in a future in which you have a new regime in Iran. Opportunities are vast. Look, I need to make a clear distinction between the Iranian regime and the Iranian people. Iranian people are very serious people.
Literacy, 85%.
Literacy, engineer capability, technological one, merchants, they have the potential that you can unlock there is immense. And this together, of course, with the oil that they have and other resources, Iran can be such a good for the better in the world and in the region. But this has to be under a different leadership, not under the current one.
No. For me, as I said, this current leadership is done.
This futuristic vision has, so many potential. Before the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Israel and Iran had good relations as well. Before, there's no reason why we don't. There's no reason we should be enemies. There's no reason. If Iran would have left us alone, we wouldn't have bothered with them at all. They are 2,000 kilometers away from Israel. We have enough on our plate as it is. Okay, enough. So, but they are the one that chose to be our enemies, not the other way around. So, under a dreamlike at the moment, futuristic new regime, opportunities are vast. Under the current situation, you need to have, and I think you have in our region some visionary leaders that understand the opportunity that is open now and who are willing to make the right decisions. As I said before, there's a lot that both Israel and the moderate Sunni countries can gain from more from stronger cooperation, stronger collaboration. You mentioned IMEC as an example. We can speak about energy, about
IMEC requires
transportation.
stability in that part of the region.
Well,
That's why Iran has to change the regime. Because Pakistan follows, huh?
A weaker Iran makes IMEC more of a real possibility. Iran that has less power to meddle in the issues and to undermine the government, the countries around it, gives them more capabilities of doing things with the international community and also with Israel. So, as I said before, opportunity is there. It is not a given.
Right.
It is not a given. It depends on the decisions that will be made, but the terms, the conditions have dramatically changed in the last 12 days. Dramatically changed. That's what
every
I'm
day
trying to
we
say.
wake up, there's something new.
Yeah.
If we sleep at night.
Look, again, June 13th to June 24th, this campaign that we had with the Iranians, Iran was severely defeated here. And everybody that looks at it understands this. And now they need to make what are the implications on me?
Targets. That was the most impressive thing. Because most analysts, when they will settle things, and we will look at the historiography, even intelligence, inside, and targets, and so on. Those that understand technology uses on this.
Let's play a short game. Let's play a game.
Please.
In this game, you are Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. How do you feel right now? How do you feel when you know what you already suffered? When you understand how exposed you are, both in the level of intelligence, but also in the level that you cannot even control your airspace, that Israel can do whatever it wants in your airspace. What does it do to your feeling of... I'm just asking questions. I'm not answering them.
Yeah, thankfully I'm not.
I know.
But I would say the following. We have a saying in Greek that you might die from a heart attack with all this pressure coming into him. There are three choices on the table. You keep low and hope and pray that nobody finds you, even inside your own people, because they have the tendency to overturn against their own leadership at times. The second thing is you have an option: go to Moscow, stay there the rest of your life.
You're talking about the person. I was talking about the regime in general. But
the regime is in disarray. Its morality is low. And if you distinguish the announcements, because most of those that were in the first attack of Iran to Israel are eliminated. The second part that came out are eliminated. And suddenly what you see on their announcement, you see the number 2 or number 3 now coming up and not the number 1, because they know that they might also be eliminated. So there is lessons learned there for them. But for Khamenei, I guess that it's clear they have nowhere to turn into. And he personally does not have anywhere to turn into. Yeah. That's why he came yesterday. He said there are 4 options in case I'm put away. And that was lame, to tell you the truth. I mean, you're preparing the next generation as if what? You were the supreme, I mean, he's called supreme leader, like, who's my followers? 85% of your people are against you. So wake up, go outside, see what's happening. Look at the moderate Persians, what they're trying to do inside your country, first of all. Listen to your people's needs, because there is a limitation. They've been copying basically everything. A Coca-Cola, Twix, a Mars that has a name in Persian, which has nothing to do with the companies, because they have nothing to offer in its market. It's a closed market. That's it. The Chinese will sell them out because they didn't do the strategic relationship that they had promised either sides. The Russians are already overextended, so there are no choices.
There's never such a thing as no choices. You might need to choose between bad choices, but there are always choices.
The choices I told you are these choices. But in reality, these are not choices. Not political choices, at least.
I unfortunately...
He can resign.
No. Let's be serious. You don't resign. You are sent. You are like the
Pope. By God, exactly.
You don't resign.
Exactly.
I think that it's clear to me, and this is because they are guided by this ideology, that the option they're going to choose is to resume the way of the jihad. This is what they believe in. How to do it is
not an ending story.
How to do it, this is the big question. What are they going to do exactly now? How they're going to rebuild, it's up to them. But the ideology guiding this regime has not changed. So I'm not saying I'm not foreseeing any kind of, we're going to sit in the corner now and... No.
No, I never said they will.
That's not what's going to happen. There's not going to be any resignation. There's nothing of this sort. This is not what's going to happen. It's not what they will do. It's more about what would the international community would do to keep them in check, to make sure that they do not.
Maybe.
I
That
know.
was my last question.
I know.
What do you think the West will do? I'm not talking about the U.S. I'm talking about the EU.
I know what we are willing to do, and we said this. And if we see any kind of rebuilding of an existential threat to Israel, we will act. We did it before, and now we can show what we did and how we did it, and we will do it again. Hopefully we won't need to do it again, but we will do it. Because, it's important for me to say one more thing, that people think that Israel, some people accuse of being some kind of a rogue state who does whatever it wants. No, we are a law-abiding country. We believe in international law and we adhere to international law. International law is not a suicide pact. It doesn't mean that, I need to sit here and wait until they kill me, but this is what international law says because I need to wait for them
Pre-emptive attacks.
Look,
legally binding.
There is one thing that needs to be said. What we have with Iran is a protracted, it's an ongoing military conflict that has been going on for years in different ways. The Iranians took down our embassy in Buenos Aires in Argentina. There were
very few people know about this.
They were arming and guiding the Hezbollah and the Islamic Jihad and Hamas to shoot at us. There was an active conflict going on. What happened on June 13th was just another step, another element in this ongoing. It didn't start on the June 13th. But we don't need to necessarily want to be again in a situation that we have to suffer all those things along the years, the building of the proxies, the building of the threat, in order to make sure that if I can use maybe not a good term, there has to be clear, we want to mow the grass.
Yeah.
We don't want to let it grow
again
and only then say,
yes.
Okay. So
it's clear. Your objectives are clear.
So, but this is Israel. What would the world do? It's a different thing.
The world. What will the EU do as a last question? What do you think the EU should do or could do? Even better, could do. Not should, could.
I think that what the EU could, should, or would do is a question you need to ask an European diplomat and not an Israeli one.
But you are in Europe.
I am, but I'm representing my government and not European.
So we can get some advice.
Look, I don't want to give advice. I think that we can hear in some of the European nations, we can hear some statements that acknowledge the threat, that they understand what kind of a threat Iran is.
Yeah.
It seems that in the European toolbox, which is more limited, the option of taking kinetic activities is not part of this toolbox. So they will go to the tools that they know, and they will try to find agreements probably of some sort, which I don't think it's a bad idea. Right. I just think that, again, I might be making a mistake here, and I apologize, but if I'm a European diplomat today, even though I don't have the hammer in my hand, it's not bad to use the fact that there are other hammers around to try to leverage it in the negotiation that you want to have.
Dear Ambassador, I know that we can talk for hours. This discussion is happening during a very pivotal moment in our lifetime. And it will remain in history as very important, with different chapters. In the last 10 days, so many chapters have been written in terms of history. While I was listening to you, whenever we discuss, I'm always getting inspired because you're trying to keep a balance, and I like that. Not because you're a diplomat, but because you want to showcase and you want to put your both sides and see the options and opportunities. This discussion is happening during a time of where NATO summit is coming up, so that will be a difficult one for the NATO allies. The UN is also having real troubles at this point. As you said, the opportunity is there. That hammer is there. We can leverage for negotiations, for rebuilding, establishing, completing issues, pending issues, historical issues in nature. It is not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. I would like to thank you very much for the time that you have spent in giving us this opportunity to discuss. I know you're extremely busy considering everything that is happening around you. I would like to wish you and your people the very best for your family and your families. Safety above all else. You do have friends here. The Republic of Cyprus and the Republic of the Hellenic Republic, Greece, is your friend and ally. And I talk as a scientist, as a person who judges things and evaluates things as they're writing things. We have a strategic alliance together. We do hope that this is going to end soon, and we do hope that the next day will give us opportunities. I'll remain with the word opportunity here. Whatever is done. I also believe that the regime is over, no matter what. Change will happen from its own people. We've been seeing the movements of different fractions and families. No need to go in there who's who. But I guess that this opportunity is here in front of us, and we do seek for leadership. All of us seek for leadership because we want safety and development. We prefer to do business deals and be happy about the choices, or sad about the choice that we have made because of the market competition rather than war and destruction. I personally feel you. I've done what I could so far, and I'm going to do more. But thank you very much for the time. All the best to you and your colleagues. And thank you very much and we really appreciate your work that you have done so far with the representation of Israel to Cyprus, considering that Cyprus also has to envision also its near future, considering that it is an invaded country for more than 52 years, and it has to play its own role in the situation that emerges. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me and for this very interesting discussion. The last thing I would like to say is that I sincerely hope, and I think it's not just my hope. I believe that there is a good foundation to what I'm just saying. That following the events of June 2025, we are going to enter into an era is too strong a word, but into a period. That gives us more hope for Israel, for the region, the Middle East, for the Eastern Mediterranean, for a brighter future. I truly believe in this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching this special edition of Prime Analysis. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow into our YouTube channel and social media. My name is Dr. Marios Efthymiopoulos. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Strategy International. And remember, impact makes a difference.